Call a meeting in North Reading School Committee to order. Thank my fellow committee members and administrators and our secretary and our student and our reporter from this transcript and Rob Carboni from NORCAM for being here tonight. Not a very easy night to get here. Appreciate everybody being here. First order of business is student report, and tonight we have Jackie Lanzaro. Jackie?
So, thank you, but sorry if I missed something. Due to the snow day, I wasn't able to meet with the other student representatives to brainstorm, but I think I got everything. So, for sports, the winter season is coming to an end, but girls basketball lost to Masco on Thursday at home. Their game today versus Hamilton Wenham was moved to next Monday. They have a game versus Triton at home on Thursday. For swimming, sectionals that were this weekend were canceled due to the weather. Boys basketball, they beat Masco on Thursday, and their game versus Hamilton Wenham is tomorrow at home. For wrestling, they finished on Tuesday by beating Hosea Quincy Upper School by 67-7, and they finished the season with a 25-0 record, which has never been done before by North Reading or Linfield. They have North sectionals this Saturday, and Division III states are next week. Indoor track and field have states this Friday. Hockey lost to Newburyport on senior night 4-0, but they have a record of 8-5-2, and their game today was canceled. On another note, Masker's 9-5 performances that were scheduled for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were canceled, and they hope to have their last performance some night this week. Student Council finished their Book of Excellence last week for the state conference this March, and this is the first year we've ever made one. Also, Student Council has been selling cupcake orders for Valentine's Day. Last Wednesday, junior and seniors attended John Morella's I Am Dirt. The high school has a half day this Thursday. Interact Club is making Valentines for this week for the senior citizens. And lastly, the administration of the high school has created a student senate to enforce more communication between students and administration. And applications for this are due on February 27th.
And I'm
The Maskers don't make those up?
I don't know. They had Friday. They tried to make it up on Sunday night, but then it had to be canceled again last night.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to make up the lost performances?
They're
We're
going
gonna
to
try one this week.
One?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's too
Because
bad.
plus, I think they're involved now with the. Are they doing the state?
Yes.
The theater,
Mm-hmm.
Globe Theater.
That's an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
It is.
And I'm assuming you don't have any schoolwork since you weren't in school today.
Oh, I have something actually.
Oh, you do? Nice.
Today I have the outline of my latest workshop that I presented at the Fall NEMASC conference. Actually, I'm a delegate on the NEMASC board, and I helped to create and host the NEMASC Fall Conference, which took place in November. The theme of the conference was creating your leadership tool belt, and we focus on construction because this winter we will be doing a community service project with Habitat for Humanity. My workshop was creating your blueprint, and it focused on setting goals. In the beginning, we did an icebreaker, and then we divided the students into groups of 5, and we gave them simple goals that need to be completed, like wrapping a gift for Christmas or giving someone a manicure. And we gave them a sheet, and you were able to write down all the steps that you took to reach your goal. And at the end, we had a few debriefing questions, and we focused on 3 main ideas. A goal can be anything, something small or something huge, but it is always a challenge. All goals often require more than one step and involve more than one person, and the step method is a way to divide tasks in order to reach a goal quickly and efficiently. And lastly, we focused on the quote, "It is about the journey, not the end result."
What is NEMAS?
It stands for Northeastern Massachusetts Association of Student Councils.
Oh,
Well, setting goals is one of our favorite pastimes. We look forward to that for both the school committee and the superintendent every year.
We do it almost incessantly.
Yeah.
that's the last point you made about the journey.
Yeah. Who told you that, the superintendent?
No, if you read the book about Steve Jobs that was released really like a month after he died, that was one of his main points throughout that book was the journey is often the goal, and I think that's important to remember because you're not always going to be successful, but getting there you learn a lot of things. So that's real good.
I have an observation. What we just saw was 21st century skill set
Yes.
being shown to us here tonight.
Yes. Very good job,
Very
Jack.
nice.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Did you drive here tonight?
No, my mom drove me.
That's good. That's good.
Would you make her sit in the car?
Yeah.
You did?
Well, you should invite her in.
I will next time.
Make her wait.
Yeah. All right.
She was probably happy to listen to the radio.
You're all set then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You don't have to stay.
Okay. Back to the agenda. Well, I didn't ask for public input, but no public has braved the elements tonight to view our meeting, so I'm assuming there's no public input. Next, we have continued business, and first item under that is the MSBA SSBC update.
Yes, thank you. On January 29th, 2013, the first of 3 middle school, high school building project information forums was held at the high school auditorium from 7 p.m. to 8:20 p.m. It was attended by approximately 65 members of the community who viewed a 25-minute presentation and then engaged in a question and answer period. There are 2 more forums that are planned, one being Thursday, February 28th, and the other Thursday, March 14th, both beginning at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. The Secondary School Building Committee met on Tuesday, February 5th, 2013, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. The 90% construction documents were completed on schedule and submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The 100% construction documents will be completed on February 25th. Mr. Sean Delaney at this meeting provided a summary of a recent meeting that he had held with a group of abutters to the project, and several abutters also attended the SSBC meeting and engaged in a question and answer session with members of the committee. Mr. Don Kelleher reported that he shared financial documents that had been requested by a community member at the information forum, and he shared an email that he received from a community member. The Finance Subcommittee the Finance Subcommittee of the SSBC plans to meet every last Wednesday of the month, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Mr. Sean Delaney and Mr. Mel Webster requested monthly financial reports that address receipts, invoices, payments, and MSBA reimbursements. SSBC member Janine Imbriano reported that Steve Nathan, Cliff Bowers, and she attended a Hood School Parent Association meeting to answer questions about the building project. And she's preparing information to share it with the planning committee that will be meeting regarding the next information forum. And at this meeting at 6:33 p.m., a motion was made to enter into executive session for the purpose of contract review and potential litigation, because to do so in open session could have a negative impact on the town, the schools, and the SSBC. In addition, a motion was made to allow members of the Board of Selectmen and School Committee to attend executive session if those members did not sit on the SSBC. A special town meeting has been scheduled for Monday, March 18th, 2013, and a special election is scheduled for Friday, March 22nd, 2013. The next regular SSBC meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night, Tuesday, February 12th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the high school modular cafeteria.
I'd just like to, especially since we have a brief agenda tonight, I wanted to just, again, address some of the facts related to this project. There's a tremendous amount of information that continues to swirl around the community, and much of it is inaccurate. And I think it's important that we continue, whenever we can, to reinforce and communicate the facts. So I just have a couple of things to add here. And then any other school committee member wants to comment on that or ask questions, we can go from there. The first thing is, between the amount of money already spent and the amount of money committed and accepted bids, we're somewhere between $38 million and $40 million on this project. That's either spent or committed to contractors or materials. I think that's important to note. We're pretty far down the road on this project. Second, nothing has been changed or added to the project that was approved a year ago that would increase the budget. We've added nothing. The only thing we've done is gone through a value engineering process where we've actually subtracted items in order to get within the budget. I've seen many letters to the editor, comments on Patch. I've heard many comments from the community. Why don't we just scale back the project? This is the project that we have approved by the MSBA. I'm not even sure if we could scale back the project, but if we did, I know that it will require us stopping what we're doing right now and to go through this entire process again with the MSBA. And that really isn't something that I think we can do, given that it would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars per month to stop this project now. And then the question would be, how do we scale it back? What do we do to scale it back? I don't think there is a scale back here. Stopping the project now. I've heard many people, stop it now, let's get this under control. It'll cost us, again, several $100,000. I've heard somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a month if we stop this project now. It's not going to buy us anything except bigger bills.
Even worse than that is stopping it would mean that we would capsize our reimbursement from
Correct.
MSBA. The process would be go back to zero.
Right.
We'd be sitting there with footing the bill on fixing what we've got, and what we've got is a partial construction.
Right.
It would be a disaster.
Continue to see this project labeled as a Taj Mahal. The MSBA is not approving Taj Mahals. As far as I know, the last Taj Mahal that was built in this state was Newton North High School. That's one of the main reasons the MSBA came into existence. They won't approve a Taj Mahal. We don't have a field house. We don't have an indoor track. We have what is required for a 21st century education for our high school and middle school students. It's not a Taj Mahal. Couldn't be further from the truth. There's also been many statements that the high school has somewhere between 20 and 35 years of useful life left. I don't know where that comes from. It's completely inaccurate, completely erroneous. I have documents here from the MSBA that I will quote from in a second. That'll show you that that's just not the case. Finally, the SSBC has followed every step of the process as required by the MSBA. We hired the people we were supposed to hire, the companies. They were on an approved list by the MSBA. They've all been vetted by the MSBA. They were then vetted by our committee. There were finalists for each of the different positions, the architecture, the OPM, the construction manager at risk. All of those companies have built numerous schools in this state, and they were vetted fully by the MSBA. Just one last note. We have 18 modular classrooms between these two buildings. Why? Because the 1,350 kids we have don't fit in the two buildings. These modulars, and Carl, these numbers might be off, but range anywhere from 8 years to more than 10 years.
That's correct.
They do not have an infinite lifetime. We will have to replace them. They're extremely expensive. And our kids shouldn't be in modulars anyway. They should be in school buildings. I did want to quote a few things from the MSBA, the final report that they did, where they recommended that this project go to a schematic design. They noted that the original design capacity of the high school, which was built in 1955, was unknown, but that in 1989 the school was renovated based on a design enrollment of 540 students. We have more than 730 students at the high school currently. And I use the term renovation loosely when I refer to that 1989 project, because basically we put in a new library, we put in new windows, I think we fixed some of the systems where there were problems, but there wasn't much more than that to that renovation. We have approximately 1,350 students between the two schools right now. Just two more things. This is some discussion, the MSBA in their report. The existing North Reading High School, the district's prioritized statement of interest, was originally a 110,000 square foot building built in 1955. While the building is well maintained, many of the original classrooms are inadequately sized, and the building systems have outlasted their life expectancy. Note the well-maintained labeling of our school. For the middle school, it's also a well-maintained 93,000 square foot, 1- and 2-story building built in 1964. And as I mentioned, the modular classrooms, that facility includes 10 modular classrooms. Finally, the feasibility study that was done of the existing high school came back reporting that the building was not a suitable candidate for renovations and additions, and that new construction was the most appropriate solution for the following reasons. And there's a bunch of reasons. I'll just read a couple of them. The building is overcrowded. Many of the existing classroom spaces are as much as 30% below current MSBA guidelines for space. Several modular units are being utilized to provide core academic and cafeteria space. The existing building's location on the site does not lend well to expansion. Site shape and terrain, as well as a recently constructed turf field, limit space adjacent to the existing facility. Structural design of the existing building does not provide capacity for vertical expansion. The existing building systems have reached the end of their useful life and need to be replaced. And finally, the existing building is constructed on a slope. Numerous interior ramps follow the contour of the hill and create slopes well above current accessibility standards. So the bottom line is, in terms of facts, this project was a necessity. It was approved by the MSBA. All the correct steps were followed. That doesn't make what we are asking for in March any easier to ask for. But I think it's important to know that the facts of this project and that all the steps have been followed as required by the MSBA. Committee members?
I keep seeing this idea that the project is out of control.
Right, that's another one.
And that it could be nothing further than the truth than that. That's truly is a stretch. There are basically two things that have gone wrong on the project so far. One of them was the original estimate, and that just caused us a great deal of upset and consternation. And that estimate was put together at a time when costs were changing radically. And the cost change happened, and the estimates that were made at the same time for other schools show the same kind of a situation we're in. They're all underfunded at this point. The second thing is that we didn't go around and tell our neighbors that we were about to take down the trees 2 days later. Those neighbors were all informed of hearings by the CPC and the Conservation Commission and the Zoning Board. They all got certified mail saying that. But 2 days beforehand, we didn't go around and say, hey, we're taking the trees down. And some of those folks came home and found that the trees had been taken down right behind their yard. Those trees are going to come down one way or another. That they had to come down in order to construct the school. So, and they were on the plans that were shown at those hearings. So it's, it's very difficult being an abutter to a $100 million, $110 million project. There's a lot of upset. There's unsightly things like construction trailers and piles of earth and mud and noise and trucking and all of those things. There's no way to ameliorate all of those issues. But those are the only two issues. And right now the project is on schedule. It's proceeding well. We have about half of the foundations in for the high school portion of the project. Last Friday, between 9 and 11, just before the storm, we had a 50 cubic yard placement of concrete. It was covered, heated, and so that it would be appropriate in the cold weather. There's a great deal of structural fill being placed in replacing the unsuitable materials. And the unsuitable materials are rather astounding. There's pieces of tree and all sorts of other debris that was obviously pushed there when this school was built back in the early 60s. And those people put them down there. They had no idea that anybody'd be looking for that piece of land. But there's pretty big holes out there where that unsuitable material is taken out, and some pretty substantial amounts of structural fill brought in. There was a whole row, in fact, on Thursday last week, there was a row of trucks. There was 7 or 8 trucks on site at any given time had been moving in to drop that structural fill, and we took everything from Benevento's and then had to go elsewhere. They didn't have enough. So there's a lot of structural fills gone in. There's actually, the structural fill now extends out so that the next time we have some halfway decent weather, we'll be able to place the rest of the foundations for the high school portion.
I just wanted to weigh in quickly, and I don't want to be repetitious, but to summarize what Mel and Cliff both said, the need for the project hasn't changed from a year ago. The need still exists. Nothing's been added to the scope of the project, as Mel has suggested. The schedule for the completion of the project hasn't changed. Support from the from the MSBA hasn't changed. The reimbursement amount has not changed. The only thing that's changed, unfortunately, is the cost of the project. And the Secondary School Building Committee, along with the school committee, the Board of Selectmen, are working tirelessly in trying to bring that under control. We are going to be looking for additional monies, but everything else about this project, as Cliff suggested, is moving forward as planned. There are no other issues that we're dealing with at this time. I'm sure there may be issues as we go forward, but really the only major problem we have right now is the cost, and hopefully we can rectify that and complete this project on time and build it as we had suggested we were going to build it.
I did just want to add, we're not alone in this dilemma, which is, as I said, very unpleasant. Today in the Lawrence Eagle Trip, in fact, Andover tonight has a town meeting where they'll be voting on $5.7 million. I don't know if it's tonight, actually. It's sometime this week. They'll be voting on an additional $5.7 million for a $44 million. It is tonight at 7 for a $44 million elementary school project. It's a 13% increase. The main reason given is the significant increase in construction costs and the bids coming in much higher than they had expected. Again, none of us wanted this to happen, but I wanted to point that out.
And I think, too, the opportunity to get reimbursement from the MSBA is not going to last forever. I think some people think this program will continue on indefinitely into the future. I'm not sure that it will. I read over the weekend that the town of Winthrop is doing almost the exact same project we're doing. They're just in the proposal stages, but they're going to build a new high school and I think renovate a middle school or build a new middle school with core facilities, a very similar project to ours. I'm not sure what their enrollment is in Winthrop, but it sounded like almost the exact same type of thing we're doing.
Anybody else?
I just want to add that I think it's very easy for people to evaluate something given current context versus not having the longitudinal history of this project. People have been doing this for over a decade, if not more, and so jumping in and making an assessment without having that grand context, I think, is a mistake. I have no children who are going to benefit from this project, and I can tell you that this is challenging to many people in the community who don't have kids and they know they have to shoulder the cost. But it's something we're doing because it's for the community. There's nobody in this project who wants to see this project, go huge amounts of money overboard. But there's no reckless spending. There's no waste anywhere in this project. So to say that, I think, is a gross misrepresentation of the project. The second thing I would say is that this process has been very transparent, to the point of almost excessively transparent in how it's being done. We've had multiple forums, we've communicated to it through a number of different venues, we've utilized and exhausted almost every mode of communication we can. And to have people come to the process now and to interact with the process, we're happy to have people get engaged, but be informed about what that process is. It is essential because the people who are doing this work are the people who live in your community. Nobody did this just because. This is something we're doing for people who live next door to us and the people who will move to this community in the future. So I would just invite the community, particularly people who are upset about certain aspects of this, to have a conversation with someone and really come to an understanding before passing judgment on it.
Very good point. The process has changed significantly since we built or rebuilt the elementary schools in this town. Before, there was a building authority for the state, but you basically built your school, you told them you were building it, but you basically, the community did everything on its own. There was no state board overlooking every step of the project and telling you, you do this next, you do that next. And then at the end, they gave you money if you built it the right way, and they came at you and they said, okay, here's 40%, here's 45%. Now, they're there every step of the way, and they're reimbursing every step of the way. We don't wait till the end. We pay a bill, they pay part of the bill. We pay another bill, they pay part of that other bill. So they're heavily involved, and you know, if you want to question the MSBA, you want to question the way the state does things, that's your prerogative, but we followed the state guidelines to a T in this
and
project.
again, I can't speak for the entire the Secondary School Building Committee, but the relationship we've had with the MSBA has been a good one. It's been a very cooperative relationship, a very helpful relationship, and I think it's going to continue. I mean, I'm certainly not complaining about it. I think they've given us some good guidance, and unfortunately, the one area, as Cliff mentioned, that we slipped up was in the original estimate, and there are some reasons for that, so.
And we have another meeting 2 weeks from Thursday, February 28th, 7 o'clock at the high school. It's our hope on that night we can at least start to give an estimate or a range of what we expect to be looking for at the special town meeting and the special election. And then the final meeting is March 14th?
Correct.
Also at the high school at 7 PM. And the plan that night is to have the exact number that we will be requesting, as well as the impact that that number will have on the tax rate. Cliff?
One more thing. You already said it, Mel, but the reason that MSBA is requiring this process is to avoid another Newton North. And they have a set of strict rules to follow. And one of them is that you make an estimate at the 20% level, and then you move ahead with that number. That's a part of the process, and it was there for a reason. We just have to live within it, and that's part of what the problem we have is that, we had a...
Yeah, but on the other
a
hand,
number.
you can understand, that 20% may not be accurate enough for us to make an estimate, honestly, on the size of a project. And we're not talking about a $200,000 home that's built out of wood, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I mean, it's a pretty sizable project, so we can't, I think discounting the MSBA process I think that's part of the problem. Although they're trying to fix a problem, I think the early estimates are part of the problem, honestly.
By and large, the estimates that have been made at the 20% level have been okay. They've been fairly much in tow. But in our particular case, and in the case of I guess 4 others, when you have that inflection point in cost increase, if you just happen to hit that the wrong way, the price can rise up faster than what the estimates are telling you.
Timing's everything, and I know Duxbury is having the same issue, and I mentioned Andover, and I know there were a few other communities, all kind of around the same time as us, that are having similar problems with their projects.
Right, so it could be somewhat of a flawed process.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we
I
have
think that's-
lots of...
I don't know that that's the case. I mean, again, I think even, you have to look at the process. I mean, if you were trying to get 100% documents complete, it would cost you $5 or $6 million before you knew if you had approval for the project. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I don't
Doesn't make
think, and not only that, but the time frame. Even when you had 100%, as you went out to try to price these things, the costs could still increase, even if you
How
had your
about getting
complete
closer
documents.
to the
But,
project?
yeah, but
Well,
that,
again,
have a bid.
if you want to do it 100%, it's going to cost you $6-7 million based on the project that we're doing.
To determine whether or not you're even going to go forward with the project.
Right.
So,
And then you go out to bid, and that's the real number. And until you have that real number, the bid, in your hand, you don't know what the cost is going to be. It's all estimates up to that point. And we will have a guaranteed maximum price from Gilbane, and that's the number. That's the maximum number.
Right.
And there will be changes. You can bet that there will be changes. Every single construction project has changes on it. Things that go wrong or that aren't exactly found initially. And we have a contingency assigned to deal with those changes. That's part of the normal path of construction. But the Gilbane number is the guaranteed maximum price and equivalent to a lump sum bid. Except that in the case of the guaranteed maximum price, if it doesn't cost them as much in buyout of the subs and materials, we get the return of money.
Right.
Anything that they don't spend within the guaranteed maximum price. If they go the other way or they run over and it costs more, then they eat it.
Okay. Anything else, Kathy? Okay, next, Little School retaining wall update. Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today was the day the project was set to begin. We actually did have a meeting on site this morning. I had an opportunity to speak to the owner of the company, East Coast Development, who is handling the project. East Coast Development, by the way, was the bid winner and is a North Reading-based company. The owner said that he had some minor, I'll emphasize minor concerns, that the snow will add a few days to the process because he has to remove it before he begins. He had equipment on site already this morning. He had a Bobcat and is bringing in a front-end loader to remove the snow so that he can begin working on the project. As I said, equipment is on site. There will be workers there tomorrow and the rest of the week working until this process is done. We will have weekly on-site meetings to assess the progress towards our completion goal, and he still is confident that this project will be done prior to the softball season. Having said that, even last year when the retaining wall was deemed to be unsafe, we put a rope around it and still allowed softball to continue. So worst case scenario is that might happen. But that's not the plan. The plan is to complete the job in time, and he's confident he can.
Excellent. Any questions? Great. Thanks, Carl. Next, I have to say that I have come to look forward to these policy manual changes, thanks to Mike and Cliff and Kathy.
Not as much as goal setting, but they are very
Right,
good.
they're close to goal setting.
Very good.
They're excellent. And so tonight, I believe we're going over policy manual I. Is that correct?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I was just hoping that I might be able to say something before we get into new business about the state of the schools after the blizzard.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I didn't give you a heads up on that. But as you know, we had the blizzard of 2013, and schools were closed on Friday, the 8th of February, as well as today, the 11th of February. Schools will be open tomorrow. I did send out an alert now message this afternoon, approximately 4 p.m. I had received some phone calls this afternoon, and so had Carl, inquiring whether or not we were open for tomorrow. So we just determined to send out an alert now message, email only, not a voicemail. But I do want to, right now, give special recognition and thanks to the Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, Wayne Hardacre, and the custodians grounds staff. They have moved and cleared tons of snow from all of our school sites, and they've cleared all of our entrances and emergency exits. This afternoon, well, earlier this morning, around 11:30, Carl and I took a road trip around North Reading, and we visited all of the schools, checked out all the entrances and exits, took a look at the parking lots, reported back to Wayne, and really noted how good what the condition was of the parking lots, but also identified a few areas that we wanted a little more attention paid to, and that was acted upon immediately. I was also in touch with our town administrator, Greg Balukonis, regarding sidewalks, and I would like to again thank him for his support. He expressed his desire to work with us to try to get those sidewalks cleared for tomorrow. He's contracted with other companies to bring them in because our own DPW workers have been working round the clock. And so he needed to contract with outside assistance to get the job done. And speaking of the DPW, again, I'd like to thank the director, Dick Carnavale, as well as the DPW workers, because they have been working tirelessly to bring down snowbanks, to widen intersections. Colin and I witnessed that as we were driving around to the schools, and really paying attention to making the schools and the roads as safe as they can be to welcome our students back. So it's been a yeoman's job to get this done. It's tons and tons of snow. And just seeing the 4 front loaders that were on site today from the town, as well as contractors, moving that snow off site was pretty amazing. I do have another mountain outside of my office. It's not dirt, it's snow.
Just 2 quick things.
Consider carving it.
Yes. You don't often get 2 to 2.5 feet of snow in one storm, and I think people have to
Amazing.
realize the difficulty of moving that snow. It's not just plowing it off the road or off the parking lots, it's moving it. Second, I did have a couple of people complain to me about school being closed today, and I think it'd be important for you to talk about how not all the emergency exits. Just some of the reasons why we didn't have school today.
Oh,
because-
exactly. Carl and I were here on site on Sunday, and we, again, met with Wayne Hardacre. I took a look at the schools. There was still a considerable amount of snow that needed to be removed, not just plowed, but removed, in the school parking lots, and that was as of 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. The workers had been working nonstop. They were exhausted, and they hadn't been sleeping. Some of them had been working till very late into the early morning hours. And so, as I conferred with other superintendents in the area who were facing the same decisions, it was determined that we needed to close schools in order to make sure that, first of all, the snow was cleared out of the parking lots, not just moved, because there is no, if you take a look at the way that we've reconfigured the middle school front parking lot, there's no place to store snow on site. It needs to be taken off-site. And that takes hours, and it takes equipment that we do not own as a school department, and we actually need to contract with outside companies in order to obtain some of that equipment, because the town doesn't own it as well. So we needed to make sure that all of our entrances and emergency exits were cleared. They were not cleared as of yesterday afternoon. And so it would not have been safe to bring students or faculty to this building today. But I can tell you, as of this afternoon, the schools are ready for our students and our faculty.
Any other questions or comments? Carl?
It was clear that by midday yesterday, it wasn't a matter of working harder or working smarter or working faster. Our personnel who are using snow blowers and shovels had done all that they could. And echoing what the superintendent is saying, at that point, we needed to find equipment to remove the snow. This afternoon, if you were in the middle school parking lot, you would have seen 2 front-end loaders and 4 dump trucks here at the middle school alone. And we're competing with a lot of other communities to access that equipment. But we had 6 pieces of equipment right in the parking lot here. So as you know, the removal of the snow went from a labor issue to an equipment issue. So today was, unfortunately, we had to cancel today. I know the superintendent didn't want to, but we felt in the interest of safety, it would not have been a good idea to hold school today.
Well done, Wayne.
Yep. Excellent job. And the DPW, and drive on our roads and then get into Andover or Reading and see the difference between North Reading roads and the other town roads. I think, in general, an outstanding job by the DPW.
If I may, one more thing. We are also concerned about bus stops and sidewalks. We have more than half of our students reach schools every day by taking buses. We know that the DPW is attempting to lower the size of the piles that are at each intersection. We know how hard it is as you're creeping out with your car to turn left or right. It really is. So
It really is
we
bad.
do have concerns about safety. So we really want to emphasize to parents to talk to their children about staying back. The bus drivers are well-trained. They know how to handle weather like this. But having said that, we're aware of the fact that traditional bus stop areas may not be available, so the bus drivers and the parents should look for the closest driveway, stand in the driveway. We know that not every single sidewalk in North Reading will be cleared for tomorrow morning. We also understand they're working through the night or through the evening to try to do that. So we live in New England, so we have to be aware of the weather, and we'll do our best to continue to make the schools a safe place.
And as I was reminding many people today, North Reading is known for being very stingy with its snow days, and I think Superintendent Willis has continued that tradition of, a couple years ago, we had a very snowy winter, and I think we had fewer days off than most of the districts in the state. And, safety is foremost, but if we can get the kids here and we get them here safe, we're going to have school.
That's
So-
great.
Actually, this morning, all by itself, was
Oh, right.
a pretty treacherous morning.
Just the weather
It's
itself, right. It was slippery.
A lot of grease out there.
Right.
Frozen
Yep.
grease.
I did have a question. I don't know the answer to this, but would we be prepared to serve as a shelter if we actually needed to?
I think we had,
Right.
wasn't the batch, the
Was
shelter, I think?
Was the
That was
batch
the
on?
high school. I don't
No,
know.
Sunday night, we opened up the Batchelder School. We worked with Mary Prenny and the fire chief, and Sunday night, there were school personnel from our food service department, as well as our HVAC technician, Lou Del Genio, in the Batchelder School Saturday evening.
Saturday
I said
evening.
Sunday, excuse me.
Saturday.
The food service personnel were prepared to provide meals to those who needed to be there, not just seniors, but anyone who found a need to be there. And the custodian was there 24 hours with the door open, working with Mary Printing and other town officials to make that school available. There was a meeting on Friday afternoon. The so-called North Reading Emergency Group met to make plans, and they have officially named the Batchelder School the building that is used for issues of that nature. It used to be the high school, but the Batchelder was put into use for the first time Saturday night.
Can we charge per person for that, Kyle, or is that something that?
We sold tickets.
Tickets.
Double occupancy.
Yeah.
See if we could get some revenue.
No one showed up, by the way.
Yeah, we were fortunate. Most people kept their power the entire storm, and, yep, very fortunate.
My grandmother lives in Situate and was
Oh.
evacuated to the high school, so.
Yeah, it's just terrible
I just
there.
wondered, because I heard about her story and how the school was so welcoming, and so I wondered what our system was too.
They didn't charge there, right?
Well, she would not have paid. My grandmother doesn't do those things.
Thank you, Kathy. All right. Policy section I. Cliff?
Section ICAC,
Mm-hmm.
Financial Resources for Research and Development. We eliminated that altogether. It's a policy that's never been done. It's been on the books since 1983, and felt as though it was something to take out.
Yeah, I don't even know what it means. It, just so the public knows, it says financial resources for research and development. It is the policy of the North Reading School Committee to budget approximately 2% of its annual operating budget for educational research and development. 2% of our operating budget, that's a good amount of money. I
That's
don't.
breathtaking right there.
Yes.
$50,000.
I don't know what.
We figured that since we don't do it,
Yeah,
and
why-
it would be a big expense if we tried.
Right.
Why not eliminate it?
Mr. Chairman, I move to delete ICAC from our policy manual.
Is this going to be a first reading, or?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Venezia, second by Mr. Bowers to delete policy ICAC. This is a first reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Next.
Next one that we would like to work on here is ICD.
ICB. B
Which-
as in boy?
Are we gonna have an
D as in
ICU
Delta.
here? or-
I have ICB as in boy in front of me.
too.
Curriculum planning.
ICD.
I got an ICD.
Gary and I are special.
Well,
There's ICB, curriculum planning. It changes a title.
just change the title.
Yeah, just
Right.
basic
to what it
title
was.
changes.
It changes coordinator to director of academic services, and in the final sentence, it adds the director of academic services and the director of finance and operations to the administrative council. So it's just a matter of changing titles and adding a couple of positions to the administrative council, adding the director of academic services and the director of finance and operations. So that's ICB. You have a motion to make those changes as recommended by the policy
Move to
subcommittee?
approve the amendments for policy ICB.
Second.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to give it to you.
Oh,
Motion by
jeez.
Jerry, second by Karen. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
I'm sorry.
Now ICD.
ICT, Pilot Curriculum Projects.
This is by far my favorite deletion ever from our policies.
The line didn't go across one of the twos, by the way, so
We know there's 2 twos.
we thought we'd be to the punch mill.
Oh, okay. 2-2. Yeah, 2-2. So Cliff, you want to read this one? You want to read what we deleted here, Cliff? Because I
Well,
like this one.
Just the last paragraph that we made changes in, and that's innovative programs will be planned for a specific length of time so as to ensure responsible educational change. We have eliminated to avoid faddish innovation and
Faddish innovation. That's
Okay, so
outstanding.
this came from 1995. Who was on the committee at that time?
I wasn't.
Not me.
I wasn't here.
All right,
It
so
actually
there,
came from the movie The Hobbit.
I wonder what the fads
Faddish.
were. Faddish. Okay. That's a good one. Can I have a motion to, for the changes to ICD pilot curriculum projects, first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Cliff. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
The next one is a new section, section ICG, titled Instructional Materials. And it reads, "The school committee believes that materials appropriate to the needs of the school program must be available to each student and teacher. These will be furnished by the school committee subject to budgetary constraints. The task of selecting instructional materials for programs will be delegated to the professional staff of the school system. Because instructional programs and materials are of great importance, only those that meet the following criteria will be approved by the committee. 1, they must present balanced views of international, national, and local issues and problems of the past, present, and future. 2, they must provide materials that stimulate growth in factual knowledge, literary appreciation, aesthetic, and ethical values. 3, they must help students develop abilities in critical reading and thinking. 4, they must help develop and foster an appreciation of cultural diversity and development in the United States and throughout the world. 5, they must provide all students an effective basic education that does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender, identity, physical disabilities, or sexual preference. 6, they must allow sufficient flexibility for meeting the special needs of individual students and groups of students." And the source of this was the MASC, and legal references, the Mass General Laws 7148 and 7149 and 7150, and BESC Regulations 603 CMR 26:00.
Why are we adding this?
This came to us actually through you, Policy
Oh.
News.
This is your
I didn't read
fault.
that, I just gave that to you.
And it was recommended, it was one of the policies that was included in this mailing that came to us from MASC. There was a law that was passed recently in the state of Massachusetts that had to do with the inclusion of gender identity and the updating of all policies to include that phrase. This was not on our books, instructional materials, and so the subcommittee decided to present it as part of this section of the policy manual.
We had no specific policy relating to, okay. I'm
I have
assuming,
so many problems.
yeah, I do too, but
Consensus, or is this something we want to add? I mean, I appreciate what the policy subcommittee has done, but
I think it's being recommended by MASC, right?
Yeah.
It came
Correct.
directly from MASC.
Right.
I just feel like some of our other policies cover this. And I'm just wondering, my grasp of our policy handbook is not extensive because it's so vast, but I'm just wondering, do we cover this in other areas? I mean, obviously there are things about, rights here, and we honor rights of students for their individual freedoms, but this is specifically around materials.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
they're not defined in this either. There's no definition of instructional materials in this policy or reference to where we actually define them. Not to nitpick, but do we have a policy that describes what instructional materials are?
Well, then,
This is about the quality of instructional materials, not what they are.
Right.
Right. And the extent of them, that they be fair and balanced.
Yeah, which is great.
I know, number one is, I think, excellent. I have a problem with some of the others, but,
To answer Karen's question, in this section IF, instructional resources, it gets into classroom materials, textbook selection and adoption, the how-tos. Again, you just have the changes in front of you.
Right.
oh yeah, we don't have IF here, okay. I don't have a problem with adding it. I would say that I might take it home and I might come back with some maybe recommended edits for the final reading, but I don't have any problem with approving it as a first reading right now.
Yeah, I suppose every time we approve instructional materials, somebody's gonna have to come in front of us and tell us that they meet these criteria.
Yeah, I just,
Somebody's gonna have to review them pretty carefully.
I just, that's why I have a real problem. That's why I have a problem with it in general.
Is it the listing of 1 to 6?
No, I think it's some of the things that, I mean, it's like, you could go through a lot of, my concern is you could go through a lot of textbooks and a lot of materials and say, oh, they don't meet these requirements, we can't use this book, we can't use this material. I mean, they're gonna, I just have a concern with the way this is presented.
Yeah, I don't wanna make a big deal out of it either, but I mean, you know, it talks about the students' effective basic education does not discriminate on the basis of, I mean, who's gonna make that determination?
Yeah, who's qualified to do that?
But-
And, you know, I feel like we have to have an attorney look at every piece
Well,
of thing.
And I guess my
It says instructional materials programs will be delegated to the professional staff of the school system, so it's
Right.
gonna be their responsibility to do it, present it to us.
But part of my concern also goes to the role of schools in society versus parents and family in society, especially this part about fostering and appreciating cultural diversity and development. I think that's an admirable goal, but is that the school's responsibility? I don't think it is. Not my opinion, but, you know, maybe some other people think that's what the schools should be.
Factual material dating back, whether history or whatever, that doesn't meet the criteria.
That's right, exactly. I mean, I guess I have a problem with,
cultural diversity.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the wording of a lot of this.
So
Well,
we
you
already
wanna-
have, oh, I'm sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, do you want to approve it for first reading? Everybody can have a chance to look at it, and if it's not, doesn't meet the criteria for approval for second reading, then don't do it.
I'm not ready to approve
I guess
it on first reading.
one thing one thing I would wonder
Mhm.
is if we know how many school districts have approved or added this policy.
Well, what do we ask on MASC server?
Yeah, because to me, it feels like a slippery slope, out on a limb, walking the plank. It feels like a lot of issues here that could develop.
It feels like something that could sit there for another 20 years and it'll never come up.
Right, but-
Or it
All
could
of
be
a
a
sudden
forum.
it'll come up,
Or
be like
for somebody to
crap.
come in and, you know.
Do you-
Just number one could be a big issue.
Yeah, I'm just interested in the superintendent's. Do you see the potential? Do you see, you know, what we're getting at in terms of the potential for issues with this policy, or no?
When we implement or go through the review of instructional materials for adoption, we do take into consideration most of what's on this page. We're very exact about taking a look to see if there are, what the biases are that are included in the materials, and to be able to address those biases or make a determination whether we want those instructional materials if there are biases that we feel don't meet a well-balanced view of what we're trying to present. Now, what's in a mathematics book may be different from what's in a social studies book, but we do take into consideration a lot of what's on this page. And we have been doing that for years.
But how do you determine if our materials are fostering an appreciation of cultural diversity and development?
Well, one way that we do that, having conducted instructional material adoptions, is we take a look at how characters in books may be portrayed. Are they all Caucasian? Or are there multiple ethnicities represented within a particular material? And in some materials, that's not the case. In a math book that's mostly procedural arithmetic, you're not having a lot of narration or narrative text around culture. But if you're adopting a reading series, you're very aware of who the characters are in some of the stories that are included in that reading series. And you're looking for a blend of cultures to be represented, so that students are developing that sense of cultural awareness as they're going through the curriculum. It's not didactic. I mean, it's not an exact science.
Right.
But it is raising an awareness to make sure that we're representing the world that our students will be entering when they leave North Reading.
What's in the Common Core about diversity training? Do we have to offer something?
The Common Core really focuses on content as
Right.
opposed to,
But there's no content specific to cultural awareness, diversity.
well, social studies. Well, the Common Core is ELA and mathematics.
Right.
That's what it is right now. The other subjects haven't been identified yet in terms of national standards.
So
there.
to me, this is subjective. I want our students to have an appreciation. Absolutely want to have them have that appreciation. But this is about instructional materials. And I would prefer to talk about our curriculum having that level of, those requirements versus specific things, like every, intrinsically, a textbook, represents a curriculum. But there are other materials that I don't think we could evaluate for that value, like,
That's correct.
multimedia and things like that. So to me, this is a toe in the water of what we need to do. We need to think about establishing minimum criteria, but these are too vague for me to say that they are our criteria as a committee. Does this represent North Reading? Is this the kind of policy and precedent we want to set? Because it's a policy. It's not a, in the handbook or an interpretation. So I just think we need to think more as a committee about what we think those minimums are. I mean, number 5 to me stands on its own. It's obvious
Yeah,
that we
that's,
have to
that's,
do that.
right, that's a
I don't want to
requirement.
say too much about it.
That's, right, but that's a requirement of the
Right.
schools in general.
And number 1 is the one that bugs me the most, because I'm always harping on the balance of our high school curriculum presenting, factual views versus, biased, whatever, and, I think that's
we feel at number
important.
1 right in the middle school, honestly.
Yeah.
I think we fail
It's there's one obvious example.
number 1 fails when you have a teacher, and I know the superintendent is probably going to tell me this never happens, a teacher who lets their political views be known to a class, and it's clear, and your kids come home and let you know that, and that happens every day.
The curriculum fails in itself. We don't teach about genocide in general. We teach about
That
the
is-
Holocaust. So when I asked the teacher, what about all the other genocides? For example, the Armenian
Right.
genocide, the Nakba, the 20 million Russians that were also
That's
murdered or
correct.
killed.
The Roms, yeah, in general.
The teachers weren't even aware of the Armenian genocide, honestly. So, I mean, that number 1 fails in itself right in the curriculum.
So basically, we're trying to ensure that, 1, our teachers are prepared to provide this type of view, that our materials reflect a balanced viewpoint that take into consideration minimum standards which we haven't developed. And then the third is that our students are, and parents are engaged in that conversation of setting those priorities. Am I covering it all? I don't know if
I guess I'm more with Jerry. I know this was in that manual or the list of various policies that the MASC had sent out late last year, I think. I don't know if we have a need for this, or if we do, what the results could be by adding this.
So why don't we listen to that
Unintended
committee?
consequences, I
Well,
guess.
I think it's a fair statement. Part of our job as the committee is to identify what MASC is offering
Right,
new,
Right.
to read it over, present it to you folks
Yeah.
for discussion.
right.
And that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, I think you
Great
guys,
process.
I think you guys did the right thing. I think you did the right thing bringing it here.
Maybe we can get a better definition from MASC as to how they interpret this, because
Was there supporting documentation for this in that policy thing? I don't
On
remember
the
seeing.
first page, it talks about executive session, that's and then the second piece it talks about was the Chapter 199 of the Acts of 2011, which became effective July 1st, 2012, in that there were changes made to the Mass General laws regarding gender identity anti-discrimination statute. So that was the supporting information that was provided on the first page as to why some of these policies. I don't think this is a new policy in the MASC policy manual, but the update was particular to number 5, to
Okay.
include gender identity.
My question is if we're doing this, if you're comfortable and past superintendents, hopefully future superintendents and school committees are comfortable that this is happening, do we need this policy? That's my question.
vote is no on this one.
That would be my vote too, but I think I would like to recommend that everybody take this home, think about it, and let's take a vote on it at the next meeting. Don't even vote on the first reading tonight, let's just review it.
Is there any
Yeah.
additional information you'd like me to gather from
I would
MASC?
like to know if there's any way to find out how many districts have this. We could go out on the listserv and we'd probably get half a dozen responses, but
You won't get the right number.
right, if you had a number from,
Just the outside community.
Right.
I don't think we want an exhaustive search.
no,
Similar, our similar profile that's
Yes.
in the DART or something like that would be great.
I can contact the superintendents in the surrounding districts and ask them.
okay. And the other thing is, how enforceable is something like, I mean, you have a policy, but again, not to harp on it, but this whole balanced view issue of things, I don't think you're ever gonna get that. It's totally subjective.
Can I just make a comment about the balanced view?
Yeah.
A curriculum is a broad understanding of what it is we want our students to know and be able to do.
Mhm.
Materials are the resources that we use to teach that curriculum. No textbook is the curriculum. It's simply a resource. Now, when it comes to providing balanced views, we need to take into consideration the developmental levels of our students.
Yeah.
At the elementary level, we'll be developing a broader understanding of cultural awareness that is very basic. As we go through the middle school and we start to tackle topics such as genocide, we will give them a broad understanding and give some examples. It may be limited to one example that's predominantly emphasized at the middle school right now, and that can be addressed and looked at. But as we go through to the high school, where there's a more mature understanding of the concept of genocide, they're exploring through the projects that they do how that manifests itself through humankind and history.
And actually, that does, I will say that having a daughter who went through the high school, when they get in high school, they explore much beyond the Holocaust when they talk about genocide, even up to they go through some of the things that you spoke about, Michael, but also modern day, what's going on in Rwanda and some of the other countries in Africa and other countries. So, but I think you have a good point about middle school also.
And also, one of the literary pieces is Anne Frank's diary.
Right.
That's a middle school literary piece. And so what the teachers try to do is connect literature to the social studies. So that's where that overemphasis of the Holocaust comes in,
But I
or
would
appears
say-
to come in.
I would
But
say-
there is a developmental nature to what is studied at the various levels.
But I would say it might not be a bad idea to look into adding whether it's something from literature or an informational text or something
Sure.
that relates to some of the other genocides that have occurred over time.
And as we continue to review the curriculum, I will absolutely make that suggestion to Patrick Daly, our
Okay.
Director of Academic Services. But I am very sensitive to the developmental levels of our students at the middle school level, anywhere from 11 and 12 years old to 14. So the concepts that are developed through what they study needs to make sure that it can be understood by students of that age.
So-
Very, very key, and in fact, we don't mention developmental piece
Yeah.
in this at all. That's another criteria we should consider in our minimums.
So if you could look into, and if you could get some numbers, and also, I just agree with Karen, the subjectivity of this entire policy could leave it open to a lot of questions and.
What do we disagree on?
No, I said I agree with you.
Oh.
On the subject.
Might be great.
Okay.
But I think it's important that you brought this forward, and so
Absolutely.
let's
Good
just,
discussion. Good discussion.
we'll move it to the next
Sure.
week, and next meeting we'll decide whether or not we want to approve it for first reading or not add it.
Mhm.
Works for me.
Great.
Awesome.
Cliff?
The next policy we have here is IDVA, parental notification relative to sex education.
Okay, wait, you just skipped an IDAC we have here, technology resources,
Yeah, we just changed.
internet
the
acceptable
website.
use. We just changed the website address.
Correct.
Karen, do you have all these in your packet?
No.
I'm missing.
So it's just, this
I
was,
think the minor edits are probably
partial.
missing from your packet.
but I think we have to approve it
Okay.
if we're changing anything.
If we're changing the title of someone, we have to, that
Or
has to be
even this
approved?
right here.
What
Yeah.
happened was, Ms. Lindell had to send, she couldn't separate out what everybody else got in the packet from the PDF when
Okay.
she sent it to you for your iPads.
But if we're changing the,
The website?
the website, and that's changing the policy, just like changing a title, we have to approve it for a first
Okay.
reading. So we have that here, we can just approve that as
All we
changing,
did was change the website.
right, changing the website from northreading.mec.edu to north-reading.k12.ma.us.
Move to approve IDAC's amendments.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, IDAC, first reading, changes approved.
IDBA.
IDBA.
All I have is hard copy, and
I don't have this.
I don't
one.
even have.
I don't have this one.
Page, so maybe,
Title
maybe
change.
Michael has it.
IDBA.
I think we should skip it if we, because Jerry and I don't have it.
I have IDBA and there's no changes.
I have IDBA and there's no changes also, but prior to that is a form change.
Right, there's a form
The student
change.
user agreement is changed. We struck out, which is under IDAC, is it dash R?
Dash R, yeah, acceptable use policy regulation
Yeah.
for networks,
Right.
network and electronic
So we
communications.
struck out the older form and inserted a more updated form in here that we hand out to all the students that must sign and bring back.
And that's
I haven't seen it.
for them to be allowed.
It-
I think we need to pass on this one because some of our members don't
That's
have it.
fine.
Okay.
So-
which one are we
I'm glad we've done it.
IDAC-R is what we're passing on.
The next one that I have is IDBB.
Yeah, I have IDBA, but there's no changes to it.
Right.
It says parental notification relative to sex education, and there's no changes.
No
None.
changes.
IDBB is the next one.
Drug education.
We have a little glitch in the system.
IDBB, yes.
IDBB, drug education,
Yep.
and we have removed some of the references, and the first of those that appears is the end of the first paragraph, where we strike approved December 7, 1970. And we eliminate the entire second paragraph, and we eliminate the reference at the end of the third paragraph, which was approved March 24th, 1986.
First of all, just the, it should be the abuse of drugs and alcohol is injurious, because it refers back to abuse. So it should be the abuse of drugs and alcohol is injurious.
Abuse is.
The abuse
Right.
is. My editor's genes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Sorry.
I made an error.
So we're cutting out this second thing, one, because it refers to the Alliance Against Drugs, which I don't even think
Which
is
doesn't
in
exist anymore.
place
Well,
anymore.
if Governor Dukakis implemented that, we should keep it. I really believe
Would you
that.
hit him with
I
a
think we
dog?
gotta put it in the tank.
My job, if you think.
Yeah.
We ought to put it in the tank and run it out of town.
I'm sure it was a good policy.
So is the purpose of this policy to basically state that we think that it's important to address drug education and that we are coordinating with external
Yeah.
town departments and
Yep.
that's it? So we're instructing the administration to do that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Can we say, just say that and have, like,
We do.
It's kind of one of those things that is sort of understood, but we have a whole lot of policies that are
I know,
things
these ones
that
bug
ought
me.
to just be understood, and at the same time, we have them as policies.
I think this is fine.
Simplify it.
I think this is fine removing what we've removed. I don't have a problem with it. So if we can have a motion to approve first reading of the changes to policy IDBB, drug education.
so moved.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Cliff. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
The next policy that we have some changes to
IDBC.
is IDBC. And here we have some updates to current reference.
You've just added in new policies and programs and renamed them to be appropriate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any issues with this? It's just a
References.
updating to reflect,
The Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010.
right. You have a motion to accept first reading for the changes, policy IDBC, health and wellness.
I have a question
Mhm.
before we do that. What is this Comprehensive School Health and Wellness Advisory Committee? Does that exist?
Yes, it does.
Interesting.
And it had existed in the past. It had been suspended for a couple of years, and it's been reinstated this year. Mr. Patrick Daly and Ms. Patricia Bullard co-lead this particular group. And I believe he's going to be contacting you because it is required that a school committee member serve on the wellness committee. And he was wondering if any one of you would like to be that school committee member that serves on this.
Was that what used to be the youth at risk, or is that different?
I think it functioned as a wellness committee.
Because I know Mrs. Vaca served on that committee for a number of, subcommittee for a number of years.
But I can tell you that Patrick and Patricia recently had an initial meeting to go over the legislation that requires that this be in place and what needs to be accomplished. And in doing so, discussed the requirement of having a school committee member at least be appointed to this committee and be kept abreast of the work that's being done.
So
I move to appoint Karen.
No.
She's the one that raised this issue for no
I
good
second
reason.
it.
No.
Everyone
All
in
those in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
No, hold on. I would, if Karen had the time, I think this would be perfect for her to serve
I don't
on.
have the
I
time.
agree.
I'm writing
Okay.
a dissertation. I'm sorry.
All right. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the time. Why don't you ask Patrick to come and talk to us about this? It would be great to
Yes.
get a brief presentation on this, and then
He
the
was
four of
going
us
to be
can
doing
fight
that
over
on
who
March
joins it.
18th, but
Oh, March
that
18th,
has
right. That won't work.
changed.
Right.
So he'll be coming at a future meeting.
Tell him to bring 5 straws, one of them shot.
With
But I
Karen's
will-
name
Yeah,
on
with
it.
Karen, exactly.
Is that what you-
Yeah,
But I will ask him when he does the update to
Sure,
talk
with
about
the
this
pink
as well.
okay.
Show up with a
So
pink
you guys
pad.
do understand that we're still on page 23 of 50.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
So,
motion to approve the changes to IDBC Health and Wellness.
Can I have a second?
Someone second me.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Jerry to approve. First reading updates, policy IDBC, health and wellness. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? IDD, programs for children in need of special education.
And in this policy, we are eliminating the 4th paragraph. And the last part of the 5th paragraph, again, to bring it up to current practice. We belong to the North Shore Education Consortium as well as SEAM Collaborative, and there's some other changes in there that just are inappropriate today.
So we don't, that fourth paragraph that we, just doesn't apply anymore,
It's
clearly.
so outdated. It
Right.
was written in 1984.
Right. And there's one thing, though, it talks here about, we've deleted an alternative high school program is also available. Does that, what about the new career academy that we have, or?
That's a postgraduate,
Oh, okay.
it's a postgraduate
So this,
program.
refers to for high school students, not postgraduate students. That's what this,
Right, I think we're trying to make the policy as general as it should be.
Yeah.
And not include specifics such as what's included in that 4th paragraph about the percent
Right.
of the day.
Right, that's
or
not
the
even-
school week that
right, that's
students
not
are in a
applicable.
classroom.
Right.
It's just irrelevant.
So I'm gonna just ask if we can amend in the vein of, making this more general. I don't think we should name what we belong to. As a policy, I think we should say we belong to external programming that meets the needs of our community versus actually naming the collaboratives. Not that they would change anytime soon, so
I think
would
that's a good
just-
idea, because anytime we add a collaborative, then we have to go and change the policy.
So I would rewrite, as a major component of this effort, North Reading will seek external programming that will provide classes for low-incidence special needs populations for children from ages 3 through 22nd birthday as appropriate. That's how I would rewrite it. Does anybody have any other additions, changes, or suggestions?
Seek external program.
No, I don't think we should name the programs in here. I
Which
think you're right.
provides class.
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat it?
As appropriate. I believe I captured it. May I read it
Yes.
back? As a major component of this effort, North Reading will seek external programming which provides classes for low-incidence special needs populations
Mhm.
for children from ages 3 through the 22nd birthday as appropriate.
Yes.
Thank you.
With that amendment, I move to approve the IDD policy programs for children in need of special education.
First.
Second.
All right, motion by Karen, second by Cliff, approve changes, first reading, policy IDD, programs for children in need of special education. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous.
And the next one that we have up is IDDC,
Okay.
homebound instruction. And we are changing the last paragraph of that policy so that it reads, this policy applies to all students, not just those who have a special education individualized education program, IEP.
Why don't we just say this policy applies to all students, period?
It would be better.
Wouldn't that?
Excellent idea, Mel.
Thank you.
Might-
Thank you very much.
Let's vote on that.
Yes, short and sweet.
Less is more.
Less is more. That's right. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
All right.
Jerry's excited. You can see
I can see.
excitement.
Could I have it?
I put the period in.
Could I?
Anything short.
I'll tell you what,
Where?
goal setting is way more fun.
I agree, Jerry. I
Way
agree.
more fun.
Sorry.
Actually, paint
Evaluation
drying
is way more
is
fun.
more fun.
So can I have a motion to approve first reading IDDC changes, homebound instruction
First reading, so moved.
as edited, as edited tonight?
So moved.
Motion by Karen,
Second.
second by Cliff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Oh, we're moving.
Page 26.
Next that we have is
IDFA.
IDFA, athletic policy.
Oh, I see that.
We're changing the junior high school athletic activities to the middle school athletic facility activities.
Are you okay with that one?
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
making appropriate modifications on the second page of the policy, again, to address it as middle school, modified to affect the different grade structure that occurs between a middle school and a junior high school, where the grades change.
This policy was written when grade 9 was in the junior high.
Right. I understand what we're doing here, because I understand we don't have ninth.
Interscholastic competition
Right.
in the middle school.
Right.
However, one of my bugaboos has been we don't have interscholastic competition in the middle schools, and
Minority.
I've always wondered why we don't. In fact, we do, but
We
that
call it intramural.
That's we do have one team that
hockey.
plays, but it's not. It's sponsored by. It's the hockey team,
Hockey.
the junior high school hockey team, but it's not sponsored by. Excuse me, the middle school hockey team, but it's not sponsored by the school department.
No.
It's
It's an independent program
Right.
that's made up of middle school kids. that's
Right.
all.
right.
But it's not part of the athletic program.
I guess, I would argue that rather than getting rid of interscholastic competition, that we say it may include interscholastic competition for both boys and girls in grades 6 through 8 and intramural activities. I don't see why we would take it out of the policy in case someday we're actually able to, because there are other middle schools that have.
It's still recommended by the principal, so it's still
Right.
getting recommended.
Right. I mean, I don't even think we should say it shall include, we should say it may include. May include, why can't we just say, the middle school athletic program also falls under the jurisdiction of the principal. It may include interscholastic competition and intramural activities for all students.
Other middle schools provide.
They have, there are
No,
schools,
because everything's now moved to travel, hasn't it? Like travel basketball.
where there are middle schools that have interscholastic programs. They play other schools. There are some in the Cape Ann League.
Really?
They don't have a
What
Cape
kind
Ann
of
League
sport?
per se. Basketball. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't want to
He doesn't want to
eliminate.
preclude it.
Right, I don't
In
want to
other words,
eliminate it, but I'm saying it may.
Leave it open, that if that,
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you would like it to read, it may include.
It may include
interscholastic competition
And intramural activities for all students when
Or-
recommended by the principal.
By the principal,
yeah,
as amended.
it just leaves
Or.
the opportunity there to do it at some point.
Yeah, it may
Or.
include, right, interscholastic competition or intramural activities.
I only had one question about this. Are you finished with your thought?
I was finished with my thought a long time ago, yeah. I was just babbling, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, I think I know what this means, but farm activities, that kind of doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It's on number 5 in that line, middle school athletic activities are not to be considered farm activities for the high school. I just think that's kind of commonplace language that doesn't make sense.
Where is that?
Most
Farm
people-
activities are number 5.
I understand, but it's like a feeder system, like AAA is for Major League Baseball.
Well, I think
you know.
the purpose of you've got a problem with the word farm, though.
Yeah, to me, it's
Yeah.
like a general common word that may not mean things to other people. Like within.
Where does it say that?
On number 5 now.
5.
I don't,
I
oh,
just
mine
wondered if-
aren't numbered.
On the first page.
First
Well,
page.
that's because
Oh,
there's
the first
Where
page.
there was,
this here.
where there's a logical progression in sports.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what it took me a while to get it, so I just want to clarify it.
That is a bad phrase.
It's not necessarily bad, it's just confusing. That was very loud.
Yes.
Jerry, do you have any suggestions for how we might be able to make that more clear?
I'm thinking in terms of the word feeder, but I don't know if
Feeder.
that's any
It is,
better.
it is feeder.
Feeder program.
Feeder program is what it should be.
To be
Yeah.
considered,
Considered
feeder program?
Right, for the high school.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Okay, I'm okay with it.
Farm is like, they used to call minor league baseball the
teams.
farm league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that part, but like.
But it's not-
It doesn't make any sense
No, it
to
doesn't.
me. I just,
Yeah.
all right.
So are we okay if we just say that the middle school athletic program may include interscholastic competition or intramural activities for all students when recommended by the principal?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I would bring.
Okay, and then the rest of this is
The
just.
the only other thing, Mr. Chairman, I had on the second page, and I don't know, it's just a technicality, but the third paragraph from the bottom, it says senior high school programs. Shouldn't it
Should
just
say
be
high school,
programs
yeah.
as well as the
Yeah,
senior?
that makes
as, that's, we should have taken that out.
junior.
It's not a junior and a senior.
High school.
Okay.
All right, so we've got those recommended changes to the existing changes. Is everybody okay with those? You have those?
Mm-hmm, I do.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve updated and amended for first reading policy, IDFA, athletic policy?
So moved.
Motion by Jerry, second by Cliff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Where are we going now?
I have IHC dash.
Oh, we're going way down now, right?
HC-R.
This is the last one?
It's the last one, and
Right.
that would change.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh.
Sorry, Mel.
Okay,
This
great.
is so much fun.
Grading,
It's a
weighted
short
grade
night,
point.
It would have been a good time to get a long
Yes,
policy. right?
exactly. Grading, weighted grade point average, and class rank.
Yes, and we are basically changing this to be consistent with the modifications that were made in the high school last fall, where we changed
Oh, that's right.
the program around to way different than we had in the past. And this is now consistent with what has been the policy over the last several months.
Because the class of 2000, that's a freshman
Class
class
that
right now,
just-
right?
Right,
The
last
class that
spring
just
you
entered as
revised this
freshmen.
policy,
Right.
so it
Right.
needs to be now included in the
Right.
policy manual.
I think we met with John, right?
Yes, you
Right.
did when you approved the handbook.
Right. Right.
That's
And
when the
the
changes were
handbook
made.
has it starting out with the freshman class is the first to be affected by
Right.
this in the high school handbook. I guess if we go ahead with this, then it's for everybody, huh?
This brings me back to the great class rank controversy.
Oh, I don't want to be brought back to that. I think only you and I were
Yeah.
members of the
I
committee
went
at
through one as
at
a
that
high
time.
school student.
It was,
Well, it starts right at the very beginning.
Yeah,
With the
I-
exception of band and stage band.
there's not a doubt that was one of the most contentious issues that I faced in
Oh.
almost 9 years. Carl was here.
Up until now.
Up until now, right.
Oh, the parents of the band and stage
Right,
parents came in.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
That went on and on and on.
And did it affect class rank of number one versus number two?
Yes, yes, it did.
It did. Yeah.
I would agree with the band and stage band, honestly.
Well, the
No.
problem was that the kids that were in the band, they counted as an academic class.
Right.
And it was only an academic level. There was no honors or advanced
Right.
placement.
So they got
that actually brought
penalized.
their grade point, they were penalized.
They were
Grade point
penalized for
average.
their grade point average went down because they couldn't take it as an honors or.
Whereas most of the kids that got an A in a class
Right.
would help them, but for these kids, it didn't. It
Right.
actually brought them down. so.
Right.
I only have one question, and that is, if there is a tie anywhere for the third honor essayist, what happens?
Tie goes to the runner.
Handpicked by Jerry Venetia. I just wanted to know, like, numerically, if people tie.
bring-
This happened to me when I was in school. I had a numeric tie. Tie
have-
for first and second.
Happened to me.
You bring
I was
two
tied for
straws.
149th. and I
Well,
wanted to be
it's awarded to the 3
148th.
highest numerically ranked
I
students.
totally get that.
Yes.
I totally get it. I just want to know if the third slot is tie, what happens?
Oh, you mean if there's like 3 people who tie for
Yeah.
third?
Are you gonna have 4 speakers, or are you gonna have 3 and break it up? I don't
We
know. I
have
just-
5
No, we have.
students tied with the highest GPA in the science.
So, but this says 3 honor, so that's just
So-
what I'm asking. like-
Yes.
So if you have 5 tied, how do you pick 3?
Well,
Straws.
There should be something that
Straws.
says in the event of.
With Karen being the short one. Okay, I get it.
Let them all read.
No, Jerry would definitely be the short straw in this one, but I don't know.
Well, I did be tied for 149th. I wanted to be 148th.
well,
So
Mr.
how do
Bernard
you
and I
figure
haven't
it out?
discussed this yet.
Okay.
Prior to this,
There should be something.
this process going forward, but,
There should be something addressed in the policy, though. In the event of a tie,
They should run a race. Get on the track.
Well,
This
I
is a
would say that
policy.
the-
It should, this smells procedural to me, this section, about who gets to be an honor essayist, although I understand why we're codifying it,
mhm.
but I think that we should really think about that section.
Well, I think the way it reads now, what you would do is that obviously anybody that was tied would also have the opportunity to be an essayist. I mean, because if
So
you're
if we
third,
have-
if you're tied for third, you're third.
Right.
So I think it's self.
didn't we have like about
Explanatory.
that one year? Didn't we end up
Yeah,
having
what's
about 8 SAS reading?
I don't know if we had
two-
that many,
Remember,
but-
they only could read a 2 or 3 minute speech because we had so
But
many.
it seems to me, if you've got a tie, then
It was
whoever
awful
is,
when it happened to me.
If
I
we
just
have that
remember it being
situation, we ought to
horrible.
We'd be
give
happy.
enough
Let 'em all
space at,
speak.
at
So-
graduation to let the kids all talk.
I agree.
or the
Let's do
other
it.
alternative is to let everybody in the class give a,
30
No,
seconds.
that's-
Or let Jerry give a 2-hour and throwing breathtaking speech.
I
with
think it'd be good.
PowerPoint slides.
all right.
But, you know, somebody, if you've got 3 or 5
Third
kids,
is third. I mean, if you're tied, you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
it's unlikely you'll have more than 10.
No.
All right,
that's not
so
gonna
can we approve this for a first reading, and then if someone wants to bring back any recommended changes, we can do that at the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve changes, policy IHCR, first reading, grading, weighted grade point average, and class rank?
So moved.
Second?
Might be-
Karen, get in there.
Karen
Motion
got
by
it.
Jerry, second by Karen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
That was so much fun. Let's do it again.
Let's do
sometime.
that again.
Yeah, we'll be back next time. Instructional program.
Okay, thank you, guys, this is a lot of work. Thank you for continuing to review that. I know we're getting close to the end, then you'll have to start over again.
Cliff is leaving. He said it was.
Cliff's done, that's it. Cliff's going out to find, no, he's going out to find policy J. Okay, we have a school trip, North Reading High School varsity baseball team.
Yes. Coach Frank Carey, through the athletic director, Mr. David Johnson, is requesting approval for the varsity baseball team to stay overnight in South Yarmouth to participate in the Ebbett Memorial Invitational from Friday, March 29th, 2013 to March 30th, 2013. The team has participated in this trip for over the
Forever.
last 25. I think it's approaching 30 now.
Yes, it's been forever.
And a letter has been included in your packet for your review.
It's been forever. I don't think I've ever heard one problem, one issue. It's a great way to get the season started.
Knock on wood, we haven't.
Yep.
So, can I make a motion to approve the varsity baseball team trip to the Epic Memorial Invitational?
Yes, you can.
I have done so.
Second.
Just a second.
Motion by Karen, second by Jerry to approve the trip for the baseball team. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
4-0.
4-0. One
If you
abstention.
hurry, you can get by the Suburban Coalition update before Cliff gets back. If you hurry.
I'm in agreement with Jerry, let's move.
All right, I got lost here, though. What happened to my agenda?
Go back and shovel.
All right, we're gonna oust you if you can't get to the next section.
I lost my agenda. Oh, here we go.
We're gonna
Okay.
school calendar, we need to.
Oh,
talk
school
about.
calendar.
Yes.
Well, another one of my favorite. All the favorite items were on the same evening.
Listen, school calendar's
School
not even in the
calendar,
same category as
short
Policy.
and goals. It's not even
This
in
is
the same
awesome.
category.
Superintendent?
Yes. Included in your packet is a draft. So tonight is for the purpose of discussion. You have a draft school calendar for 2013-2014. On the left-hand side of this calendar, you can see the days that have been identified for special events. What I'm handing out to you now is a comparison of dates from the present school calendar to the proposed school calendar for 2013-2014. So I'd like to reference this new handout as I walk you through some of the proposed changes. The welcome back day for 2013-2014 would be September 3rd. Labor Day is September 2nd of this year. The first day for students would be Wednesday, September 4th. The two proposed dates for full professional development days would be October 11th. It's the Friday before the Columbus Day weekend, and January 10th. We have, for the last couple of years, we've had our second full professional development day, the day after New
January
Year's
2nd,
Day. But as we move down to that holiday break, you'll see that January 2nd will be on a Thursday this
yeah.
year, which means students would come back for one day. And I don't want to make that recommendation. I don't think that's a prudent recommendation. So that's why you will see the second full professional development day moved to the next week. Early release professional development dates. This year there were 4. I'm making a recommendation for 5. The purpose of increasing by one day is that many of those early release days will again be devoted to the implementation of the new educator evaluation system. As you have been informed in the past, most of our professional development early release days this year are focused on professional development in preparation for the implementation of the new educator evaluation system next year. We'd like to continue to provide support to our teachers, particularly at the beginning of the year. So we are requesting an early release day in September. That is different from this year's school calendar. And I also have a recommendation from high school principal John Bernard for early release dates for the purpose of preparing for the NEASC site visit that will take place next school year from March 2nd to the 5th, 2014. He told me it is recommended in the manual for NEASC that the first 3 quarters of the school year continue to be readying the self-study, reviewing what has been done over the course of this school year, and preparing for the site visit. So those are the comparisons of the proposed school calendar for next year to the school calendar that we currently have in place. On the proposed school calendar, you'll see that the dates for early release for the purpose of parent conferences and back-to-school nights have been identified as well. And they are similar to this year's
And then
calendar.
the final date for school, and that's if we had 5 snow days, right, would be June 25th.
Yes, so students would come back on the 4th. We are required to have students in school for 180 days. We're also required to to add 5 additional days to the school calendar for the purpose of snow days. Last year, we only used 1 snow day. This year, we've already used 3. I'm hoping we don't use any.
We had another one before? We've already had another day before
Yes,
these two?
Hurricane Sandy
Oh, that's right.
in October.
That's right.
October 29th, I believe.
Like July 4th.
No,
what-
we'll be getting out the Friday.
With 3 days, when will we get out?
We have,
Yes,
right now, our last day is identified as being Friday, the 21st of June.
Include that, so that includes the 3 days we already
3
had.
days.
All right.
So again, next year, you may raise a good point, Ms. Webster, the last day, including 5 snow days, would be June 25th.
So no snow days, the last day would be Wednesday, the 18th, right?
Yes,
Okay.
No, 20.
Yep, the 18th.
18th.
Yeah.
Right, there's a weekend in there.
Yeah.
So, again, for purposes of discussion, I would like,
I'm sure that we're meeting all time and learning requirements, even though we're having these additional, we already had the additional high school half-days this year for the NEASC, so
Yes.
and I support continuing those because the review is next year, so
that's correct. That is correct.
that's the only question.
Are there any other questions? I just want to bring your attention to the December holiday break. I think it's important to have a specific discussion around that. You'll see that the December break, students would leave on the 20th and then would have the following week off and would not return until the 2nd of January, which is a Thursday, so they would come back for 2 days. There was some discussion between superintendents in the area around the 23rd, and I had responses from about 7 superintendents in surrounding communities. They are taking the 23rd off. They're not bringing students in for 1 day
Yeah,
that week.
that doesn't make
And
any
I checked
sense.
on the calendars for this school district for previous years when this was the case, and you did not have school on the 23rd.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just wanted to point that out to
We
you.
didn't have it this year either, it was on Monday, wasn't it? Something similar to that.
This year,
It was on Monday,
we,
wasn't it? That's awesome.
the 23rd was on Monday. No, I'm sorry,
No, I think
the
25th was a
23rd.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. And we were in school on the Monday and the Tuesday. Yes.
Okay. Any questions? This looks good to me.
No, I'm sorry. The 24th was a Monday this year.
Yeah, Christmas was a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Christmas was a
Tuesday.
Tuesday, so we,
Right, that makes sense.
yes.
So can I have a motion to accept the calendar for 2013, 2014 as presented by the superintendent?
So
So
moved.
moved.
I'm going to give that to Karen.
Clearly.
You have a second? I'll give Cliff a second. Motion by Karen, second by Cliff. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Suburban Coalition update, Mr. Bowers. Anything to tell us about?
Oh, yes. Where's my notes
Sorry.
No, Cliff's
The,
got an MS, I mean,
Didn't you tell him we already did that update when he got up?
no, since he was the only one who went to the meeting, I don't think we could do that.
Suburban Coalition met at the Newton Marriott on Wednesday, the 30th of January. The guest speakers of panel were Representative Tom Conroy from the 13th Middlesex, which is parts of Framingham, Marlborough, and Sudbury, and Wayland. It's a nicely gerrymandered district. Michael Widner, the president of Mass Taxpayers Association, and John Robertson, the legislative director of Mass Municipal Association, and Glenn Kuchar, our own Mass Association of School Committees executive director. And they went through the governor's plans to make up the roughly $1 billion hole, and how he had decided as a way to deal with that was to roll out reform. And then Michael Widmer pointed out that the reforms, the increase in the sales, decrease in the sales tax, increase of the income tax was almost revenue neutral, but I think it was 43 little gimmicks in the tax code ended up by making a huge amount of money on the process and picked up something like $900 million to help. The upshot of it was that it's pretty unlikely that that reform process will happen. I've had some other inputs aside from that discussion that's highly unlikely. And then they were playing around a little bit with the formula. Tom Conroy came on and pointed out that Massachusetts has the third highest personal income tax in the country, and we're in the top third in property taxes, and that about 57% of the revenue is raised by property tax. Total overall, we're about in the middle of the states when it comes to total state and local taxes. It was an interesting discussion, but the upshot of it is that we're probably not going to see too much change in the final numbers that we get from the state.
I think right now we're looking at about $65,000 additional in Chapter 78 based on the governor's proposed budget. And at our recent finance planning meeting, we basically were told by Representative Jones that we'd probably be safe if we budget level funding for Chapter 70. And there's a lot of skepticism about whether the governor's proposals will fly. So
It doesn't look like we have to get too exercised about that.
no, not at this point.
Element.
So, any questions for Cliff? Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Okay. Next, I think bills and payroll are done. Minutes, we have 2 sets of minutes. We have 2 executive sessions dating back to one, I think they both date back to December 17th. The first one is a 6:02 PM executive session. I've reviewed this. Everything is accurate. So unless anybody has any changes, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Sherry, can you second it?
A second.
Motion by Cliff, second by Jerry. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then we have a 9:35 PM executive session on that same evening. Again, I read through it. See nothing inaccurate.
Move to
I
approve.
left very early. for
Second.
this
Yes, you
one,
did.
so I don't know.
Motion by Cliff, seconded by Jerry. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstention.
1 abstention. Okay. Is budget report next?
I'll
No,
start
hold
with
on.
budget report, and then I know Superintendent has some information here as well. The January budget report is in your packet. The 2 takeaways from this month's report would be first that, as we're all experiencing, the heating costs, the degree day numbers this heating season are a little higher than recent years, so we may not be able to grab as much money from our heating accounts to assist us this year as we have. Also mention that this is the time of year where typically we look and take a very close examination to our special education costs. We've talked here at the committee level about the overages that we've experienced in special education spending this year. And during the fall, when the PPS director is budgeting tuition costs for the year, she uses, for the lack of a better term, worst-case scenario financially, and assumes that costs will continue from that period through June. And there are times in which students don't end up staying in out-of-district placements for the entire year. And it is at this time of the year where that becomes, it begins to manifest itself in terms of further information. So we're hoping at this point that through this examination, the special education costs won't be as bad as shown at this worst-case scenario point in the process. Sure hope so, because that will help us next year. So unless and I've also noted that the personnel costs are really right on target, just what we budgeted.
Right now, Carl, you have finishing with a slight deficit in the substitute line item, and I know you mentioned that recently. Do we expect any more in that area, or is that a fairly good guess as to where we'll be at the end of the
I
year?
think it's a fairly good guess, because at this stage in February, we would typically know when teachers are planning to go out on a leave of absence. And as I've noted before, we have 7 or 8 people going out in the month of March.
Okay.
So I think at this point, we have a pretty good handle on that.
Any questions on the budget update?
If I may, Mel, I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
mention one other thing in the financial area. For years and years, we've had a process whereby the red folder got passed around the school committee, and for the necessary 3 signatures, as well as the necessary 1 signature for payroll. And with the advent of a lot of changing opportunities in technology, laws are changing as well. So I wanted to ask the committee if they'd like me to investigate the possibility of doing an electronic signature for the vendors, for the invoices, as well as the payroll. I can tell you that we've approached our auditor and asked if that is appropriate and legal, and the answer was a resounding yes. I can tell you that the selectmen have begun doing this in this month, in the month of January and February, where many of you have probably heard of DocuSign and other kinds of software applications that would allow us to PDF or email to you information for the accounts payable as well as the payroll. And you would affix your electronic signature to this document, and as soon as we had 3 of them, we would be good to go. The change would be, other than that you would not see the invoices, however. You would see the cover sheet that you're accustomed to seeing. That cover sheet shows you the vendor, the budget balance, the amount of the invoice for that particular month. But in this process, you wouldn't see the sometimes hundreds of original invoices that you see now. So you would not, in all honesty, see the same level of detail. You could, of course, at any time ask me for detail. I could send that out to you if you had a question. But the committee would have to understand that that would be a change in the process. So I'm prepared to investigate this in hopes of trying to implement it this spring if the committee is so inclined.
I think it solves that whole controversy in the summertime.
Well, it may.
It makes life a lot easier for.
I don't think I'm going to see anybody disagree with it here. So I would definitely, and if the selectmen are already doing that, and then you just email it to everybody, and first you get 3 back, and then you say
Yes.
we're done, and then let everybody know we're all set.
Yes.
Yeah, that solves that whole
Yeah.
policy change.
Yeah. Good.
Jerry will never sign another bill.
Well, I like to come in and review all the specifics
Yes.
of the invoices anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll probably still do that.
Right.
I think you should do that.
Can we still accept prehistoric signatures if we need them?
Yes, you can. We can even image your signature, your actual signature,
Oh.
so that when you affix it, it will look like the signature that you presently use.
Okay. Good.
Dangerous.
Sounds good to me.
That's
Go.
assuming you trusted us with your signature.
Yes.
Yeah,
Go forward.
Thank you.
Good idea.
make it so.
Did you say Kathy had something
I
else?
believe so.
Yes. On this Wednesday, actually, at 4 p.m., the Director of Academic Services, the Supervisor of Building and Grounds, and I will present the capital requests that we have submitted to the new North Reading Capital Improvement Planning Committee. We submitted 5 requests that you had reviewed at a previous school committee meeting. I'll just refresh your memory. One request is for a utility rack truck. The second request is continuing with the iPad initiative for the school district. Third request is a continuation of our asbestos abatement program at the Hood and the Little Schools. The fourth request is the Hood School Energy System upgrade, and the final request is the Hood School front walkway replacement. I've been notified that the process lasts for about 30 minutes, And this committee will ask questions of us to substantiate the data or the information that we've already submitted to the committee. Carl Nelson sits on this committee and represents the school district. And Carl, who else, could you just tell us who
Surely.
else sits on the committee?
Yes, 2 selectmen, Bob Masseri and Joe Fode, 2 finance committee people, Abby Hurlbut and Don Kelleher, the finance director, Liz Paveo, and Greg Beliconis are the representatives. on the
What time is that meeting?
4 p.m. in the
Hope we
town
count on
hall.
your vote, Cal.
I don't know if I can make it.
I hope we-
So this was just a point of information, but this is the first time.
And so everybody is just presenting to them, right? Every department that has.
Yes, we're about 3/4 of the way through the process already. We've made site visits, we've looked under trucks, we've gone to the police station, the fire station. There are about 65 individual requests from town departments.
Wow.
We have, from the jail to the dog pound, we've seen it all. And I believe on Wednesday night, after the school committee, the police department follows the superintendent, and we'll be done. And then the members of the committee are responsible to prioritize on 1 through 65 the requests. And that then is going to the selectmen for their final vote.
Okay. Thank you. Anything on staffing, Kathy? No?
None at this time?
Bids and donations?
None at this time?
Subcommittee updates?
Thank you.
I know we had a financial planning team meeting. As I mentioned, I think 90% of the time was spent discussing the school project. And then we had Representative Brad Jones in, and we discussed both the school project and budget and state funding for next year. Were the 2 items that took up the majority of that
Correct.
meeting. And I just to expand a little bit on that, Selectman Sean Delaney and Selectman Masseri did discuss the process of having numbers available at least by March 14th at the final information session in terms of the tax impact, estimated tax impact for the money that we will be requesting in March for the school project.
The guaranteed maximum price isn't available until the 11th.
Right.
So anything before that is premature in pinning the price down.
Say
And the difference that we're
Yeah,
going to be
it's gonna
looking for.
beforehand. Let me check with you.
Do we have any other meetings? We obviously went over the policy subcommittee meeting tonight, so,
We have an athletic subcommittee meeting tomorrow,
correct.
12:30 p.m. And the next finance planning team meeting is March 8th at 8:15 a.m. The evaluation subcommittee needs to schedule a meeting date to,
Okay.
probably in the spring, to follow
Yeah.
up on the process of the implementation of the superintendent's evaluation.
Spring, isn't that tomorrow? I hope.
And then we have our future,
We have a policy subcommittee.
right, policy
meeting
subcommittee,
tomorrow.
February 12th, tomorrow.
Right.
Future business, we have our next school committee meeting will not be until March 4th. We have a busy week, a busy month in March. March 4th, I believe Carl will get the preliminary budget.
Yes, you will.
That night. March 11th, we're having a joint meeting with the selectmen, and that's to receive and discuss the guaranteed maximum price for the high school, middle school project. And I also believe we're going to continue our meeting there to, mainly to focus on the budget that night that Carl's going to present to us on the 4th. Then, of course, we will meet prior to the special town meeting on the 18th. I'm assuming we'll get together at 6 o'clock that
Yes.
evening.
What time, Mel? It says 7 here.
You're right. I think we'll probably get together at 6, right?
6 o'clock in the library.
Right. And then Monday, April 1st, we will have a hearing on our budget. We might have to schedule a budget workshop in there somewhere, but we may be able to get that accomplished on March 11th, right? Most of our discussion on the budget after the selectmen meeting.
I'm not sure if we'll be able to have a workshop that soon after the preliminary budget is presented.
Okay.
But we can aim for that date.
By budget hearing, that's the official, quote, hearing where we the entire meeting is focused on the budget that night, or, because it says regular meeting, budget hearing?
It's a regular meeting of the school committee, but the focus of that meeting is a budget hearing.
Oh, okay.
So that's it's held in the LGR.
Okay. So we might-
Principals will be attending, I'm
Let's say
sorry,
we'll
and
have
the administrators,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. All right. Is that it? Any other questions? Anybody have any other items? Again, thanks to everybody who helped dig us out. See you all in a couple weeks. Good night. Motion to, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's 8:57, hurry, we're under 2 hours.
Motion by Cliff,
Second.
second by Karen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Night.